Hi, welcome to HMP's second HR Talks podcast. It's May 2nd already, and we are super excited to have a guest today with us. But first, I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Heather Mackay. I am the founder and principal consultant with HM Pinnacle, and I am here with my amazing other half, Cara. And we are super excited to be able to talk about something actually super unique that John
Mhm.
brought to us, but I'll let him introduce himself first. This is John Mancheski. So, John, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's John Mancheski. I've been in operations for probably 25 years. Actually, do a lot of work with Heather. Kind of do a lot of business with her on the side. A lot of consulting with her, and I really do a lot of work with leaders, and I love developing leaders and growing organizations with working with this topic that we're going to talk about today. And I really enjoy talking about this topic a lot. And I can't wait to get started.
When you approached me the other day, and you were having a bad day in general, but when you approached me the other day and you said, I have a topic for your podcast, and I was like, okay, bring it on, because Cara and I love talking about whatever's going on in people's worlds in HR. And you said, I want to talk about Seagull leadership. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I've done leadership for quite a long time, and this is one I've not heard of. And I was like,
Yeah.
enlighten me. What is Seagull leadership? And I'll let you tell it in a minute.
Yeah.
But you made me laugh so hard when you explained it. And then I was on a conversation with Cara later, maybe the next day or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I've got the topic for this week. And I said,
Mhm.
Seagull leadership. And she gave me the funniest blank stare. So I'm like, sweet, it's not just me. You've got no
No.
idea what Seagull leadership is. And we do this for a living, right? So you're going
Mhm.
to have to fill us in first and foremost on where the Seagull leadership title came from, and tell us a little bit about how this came up, why you got so frustrated with this.
Yeah.
And we're first caveat, you're not this kind of leader, but you experience this kind of leadership and it's what
Yeah.
frustrated you.
So you want me to jump into it?
Yeah, totally. Tell
Yeah.
us
So
about Seagull leadership.
Seagull leadership. I think it's interesting, right? We as leaders sometimes we don't step back and understand our style, right? When you
Mhm.
step back and you got to understand your style, and Seagull leadership is the people that come in and they come in, and when they leave, people are just defeated when they leave. Like when you come in and you just, excuse my language, but you crap all over the place. You walk into the place and you think you're leading, but all you're doing is destroying everything you think you're building. So when you have these meetings, or you say your culture is this, or you say your values are that, and you the fluff stuff, Heather, I've heard you say this
Yeah.
before. We've had these discussions. Is this, okay, so we're going to talk about the fluff today. The fluff is great, and the fluff can mean a lot if you back it up. But
Mhm.
when you come in and you're coming in and all you do is rip it down, it means nothing. And when you come in and you tear down everything, and you physically just, when you leave, people feel like when you walk out to your car, let's just state it, right? When you walk out to your car and you look in the morning and you just had your car washed, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, what's that?
Mhm.
People feel like that when they leave. Sometimes when people leave work, they're like, why do I feel defeated today? that, that's not how you should lead. You shouldn't walk out of work like you got to go take a shower because you just had somebody crap all over you, right? And as leaders, we got to understand, right? It's at the end of the day, it's about how you make people feel.
Mhm.
And it's, yeah, you got to accomplish everything you need to as a leader, but you're doing it through people, and it's how you get people to do it. And you got to understand, it's funny, right? When people come in and they do this Seagull leadership, and they're directing and yelling and tearing you down, usually what they think they're doing is they think they're
Sure.
getting you to do more. Oh, by me acting this way, I'm going to get you to care more. I think that it's so old school. Like, what is it? It's 2025. that's went out in 1970. Like
Oh, earlier
that
than
is
that, like
so
that's that
old
whole old
school.
school manufacturing
Yeah,
manager mentality, right? You go in and you yell at people to
yeah,
get them
and
to
it's like,
motivate
oh,
them, right? It doesn't
they're gonna
happen.
Okay.
show up tomorrow. Go ahead, Cara. You're
I
thinking something.
so full disclosure, I'm not as familiar with the 1970s management style.
Okay,
So, well,
okay. I'm not aging myself that far back.
like, but so I was thinking of two things. I have two questions for you, John, to just help me understand a little bit more about the practical application. So I have one question, which is I've heard of two management styles. One is Seagull leadership. I kind of recall hearing in a previous organization where they swoop in, call, leave the mess, and then they leave. And so, and then the other one, I have to do the visuals, but I also have heard of, and again, to go with this messier analogy of leadership, I've heard a toilet bomb.
Okay,
Are
I have
these the
never heard that
same?
term.
Because
Toilet
toilet
bomb?
bomb is when, okay, let's say it's 7:30 p.m. my time. Heather is my manager, and she just says, Cara, we need this big project due first thing tomorrow. Texts it to me, bomb. My entire night with dinner with family explodes, and then she just leaves. So, first question is Seagull management and toilet bombing similar, or is Seagull a little bit more trickle, trickle, trickle over time? And then the second is, could you give me, you don't have to give the exact example of your experience at your workplace the other day, but could you kind of share, like if I were to be your employee, what would a Seagull manager say to me to make me feel seagull upon that I need to take my shower?
Yeah.
So I think the seagull and the bomb theory is the same thing.
They're
I
the
think
similar. Okay.
it's similar. I think it's coming in, and neither one of them are really thinking about the employee. I think it's what
Okay.
or the teammate, right? It's not putting the we in the conversation. It's not putting the team member
Mm,
first, right? It's not putting any thought in what we're trying to accomplish. What we're trying to accomplish really in leadership is trying to put the team member in the best position to own the responsibilities to move forward, right? So I think the best way to describe either one of these would be me walking in, if it's by a Teams meeting, if it's by a phone call, or if
mhm.
it's being on site, me walking in to the environment and not asking any questions, not asking
Okay.
any current concept of what's been going on.
Okay.
So understanding where you are, not asking where you are in your workload, where the current project is, taking a visual of where you are today, giving my input where you are, telling you what you should do, how you should get to your next step, and tell you how quickly you should get there, and leaving and telling you I want to recap by tomorrow on everything. And then
Okay.
in telling you that you failed or succeeded, and then coming in next week and giving you all different directions again. Or you know what I mean? But never asking, instead of coming in and being like,
Mm,
hey, so let's sit down and talk about, hey, Carl, let's just start here. How are things going? And let's recap where you are with your team. Let's talk about where you are. Where's the projects? Hey, so where could you use my support? Right? That's the opposite of that,
okay.
right? Instead of coming in, what I'm going to come in is I'm just going to possibly go right to the shop floor, go to the project, do my visual without even asking you where you're at, what's going on, where your hangups are, where your hurdles are, make my own assumptions, tell you what you should do, and not even listen to and or hear you, but then fight you in everything that you say. And
Okay.
basically in some of this concept is you're going to be wrong even when you're right. And when
Mm,
you're right, you're going to be wrong, and you're going to learn to like being wrong. And I'm going to be right when I'm wrong all the time. And
So,
it's going to be a real awful place to be.
but it's really engagement. So I
okay.
would push it back even farther, and I would say it sounds like it's a lack of engagement style of leadership. So you're really not engaging with your employees. And it goes back to something you said, John, which I really appreciated. You said leadership is working through people.
Mhm.
right? And so that is what's disconnected in this type of leadership. It sounds like really you're not working through people. You are working above people. You are going around people. You're not
Mm,
engaging with people. And so I think that's where this huge disconnect is. And people feel as soon as you disengage with them, people stop caring. They just do, right? Because if you don't engage with them, they feel unrespected. They feel like they have no ownership in the organization or in their own roles or responsibilities. And it's funny because John and I were on a call years ago. You remember this call too,
Yeah.
because it sticks with me. We were on a call years ago with an organization who was talking about wanting some leadership coaching. And one of the conversations that this one gentleman had, and I will never forget it, is he said, I don't understand why my employees, when they pull up in the parking lot and they get out of their car, they leave, did he say 40%?
25% of their brain in the car.
25% of their brain in the car before they come into the building.
no.
And I bit my tongue because I wanted to say, you're the reason that they leave 45%
Yep.
of their brain in the car when they come in because of whatever you're doing or your lack
Mhm.
of leadership or your lack of allowing them to be owning the process or having autonomy or having engagement or whatever it is, you're causing them not to want to bring all of themselves into the organization. And it sounds like Seagull leadership, right? It sounds like that same kind of concept. So when these leaders are coming in and they're, how did you word it, crapping on the everything as they
Yeah.
walk through, they are not allowing employees to own or engage or participate
Mhm.
in what they're doing.
Well, I think the concept as leaders, we have to understand, right? The more people you lead, the less you own, right? So just think about what I
That's a
just
nice
said.
quote.
The more people you lead, the less you own. The more people you lead, the more you're there to support, the more you're there to make sure they have what they need. You're there to coach. You're there to be there in the times of the crisis. You're never there to grab the project and to be there to grab it. You're
Mhm.
there to support and say, what do you need? What do I need to get you? How do I show up and support you? Because when you walk away, they got to own it. What happens with Seagull leadership, right? People walk in, and the concept I just talked about with Cara, right? I walk in, I point, I say this, I make all these suggestions. I never ask for her input. I never ask what she needs. I tell her what to do. Then I leave.
Yeah.
She's like, well, why leave? And I think, well, now she's going to own it. I leave, and she's like, you know what? It's 4 o'clock.
Good.
He thinks I'm going to stay till 7 today. He just made me mad. I'm not engaged. I'm leaving. He's going to be here
Mhm.
next week. I'm going to go home. I'm not happy. It's the reverse, right? Now, if I do the reverse, right? If leaders, if we just thought about this, if I went in and I really engaged with Cara and then engaged with her, not only engage with her, but then let her also bring her team in and let her talk about her team and the people that are doing a good job, and we engage in people, right? Because people do the work. There's the
Yep.
uniqueness about this whole thing in the world that we live in these days, right? As a leader, and again, go back to the more people we lead, the less work we do, right?
Mhm.
The higher we all move forward, if you're the only company, Heather, as you own your company, right? Eventually the less work you do. So it's the people that do the work that you got to take care of.
Yeah.
So it's the concept of taking care of the people. So the more people you have, the more people you got to take care of. But if you come in and you let the leader and you teach that, and Cara brings in her team and she gets to let her team speak to the leader that comes, well, now all of a sudden you create this team
Yeah.
of that they're eager. They're like, hey, guess what we get to do once a month? We get to talk. We get to show off what we're doing. And then we also get to talk about the support we need and we feel supported. And then you create this environment where people, now when you leave, you have to, when you come back, you have to tell Car, make sure your people go home and spend time with their family.
Mhm.
Right. So you create the other environment. You're like, hey, don't work Saturday this week. I know they're doing a great job, but make sure people go home. Right. So you create this whole different environment by the way you treat people
Yeah.
instead of forcing people. Right.
Permission to recharge, I think, is huge. And I definitely have an anecdote. I think that I've experienced this
Oh, you
because,
have.
well, and I think this is also valuable for leaders because I love being an individual contributor and I have worked with incredible leaders. But in my type of roles, I think as a HR project manager, you can get a leader who comes in and thinks that they're not being a seagull. They think maybe they're asking really valuable questions. And I had a project that I had been working on for months before this particular stakeholder came in. And let me just preface by saying this stakeholder, a C-level executive who we did require a healthy tension with them because they came from a different perspective than our HR side. So it's a good partnership, but it can have a healthy tension. But when she approached it, to your point, she asked questions, but the questions came a little from a perspective more of, well, from my purview, it needs to look X, Y, and Z ways. And okay, I already see all the work that you've done, but it's incorrect for all of these reasons. And have you thought about this? And have you thought about that? And I just remember feeling really dejected because I was like, I have spent time with people from your team and we have buy-in together. We worked together on this. We have spent months building this out, being as thoughtful as we possibly can be. And me, as well as the two folks on her team, when we walked away from those meetings, we did feel very discouraged. Now, to her credit, I'm grateful she asked the questions. I am grateful we had the discussion. I do think she was providing a perspective that maybe I hadn't thought about, but the approach that it was done in, it felt, instead of, wow, I see all the great work that you're doing, or talk me through why you chose to make this decision with these members from my team. It was an assumption of, you came in here without any perspective from my team, and this is wrong for all of these reasons. And I've done this before, so let me educate you on how it should be done better, which again, valuable, but the approach was very defeating. So I don't know if that resonates.
Yeah. So, Kari, you said something in there that I think we got to come back to. So, in that concept, it's not that we can't talk about those things, it's the approach. What we
Yes.
have to, right? It's all about the approach, right? You still got to have the hard conversations, you still got to ask the questions, but it's all how you do it, it's all how you bring it forward, it's how you present the topics, right? It's never, it's really never, again, I go back to the day and age we're in. It's all bottom up. You want to have a great organization, you got to be bottom up. You can't be top down. Top
Yeah.
down only takes you so far. But all the topics and all those questions can be asked. They just got to be asked appropriately, and you can have such a strong organization. And you could walk away. You and that 3-person team could walk away so energized with
Yeah.
those same questions being asked, just being like, oh, great. So let's just come back, re-talk about this, because maybe we have a different outlook, instead of being walking away being like, well, my goodness, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
Right.
We were just talked at, and we had questions that were asked of us that had a clear right answer,
Yeah.
but we didn't really know how to get there without a chance of give it yes. So even if it's something as simple as if this is something, and again, look at the distribution of talking time. Is it 50-50? Is it 70-30? Is it 90-10? Because I did feel like a lot of the times it was, even though the questions were being asked, gave the semblance of a dialogue, but it was very much so 90-10.
Yeah.
But that's what I always teach leaders is ask the questions. Don't talk, ask questions, because questions are how you get buy-in. And
Mm-hmm.
buy-in is how you get engagement, right? That's all you need from employees is buy-in, right? And how do you get buy-in? You ask the questions, because then they come up with the answers that you are looking for. And when it's their answer, they believe it. And when they believe it, it becomes their solution. Even if it was your solution as the leader to begin with, when you've got them to believe that solution, then they own it. And when they own it, it becomes something that they're proud of, and they will actually move forward on it. And so that's how you create engagement, is when you ask the question. Don't give them the answer. You
Yep.
let them find it, right? And so you've got to stop talking to them and listen instead and ask the questions. And I think you're right, John, that I don't think Seagull leadership allows for asking the question. It really is giving them the answer that you want them to have.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think if we'd interview some of these people that do this Seagull leadership, what they'd say to us is, they say, well, we do this because we just don't want people to fail, our business to fail. We're
Mm-hmm.
moving so quick. And my quick response to them would be is, well, then just put the guardrails in place. And the response to me would be, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
So part of your values, part of your values and the way you set your business up is, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're always going to fail small. So you just tell your team, you put the guardrails in place and say, hey, whenever we do anything and we're unsure, we're always going to make sure we fail small. So if we're not sure we're going to do something, do it to a level. If we fail, we're learning. Because what is
Mm-hmm.
success? Success is nothing but learning from your failures. I mean, I learned that 25 years ago. I mean, now if I'm not failing, I'm not learning, right? I fail so much. I'm like, man, I'm succeeding a lot in every day. So the concept is, you take that and you just turn it around and you look at your team and you're like, hey, so how much did you fail today?
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't learn anything if you didn't, right? So instead, as leaders, we just got to put the right structure in place. Instead, that's what leaders are afraid of. They're like, well, if I'm not telling them what to do, they're going to lose the business. No, just put the structure in place that people understand. If they got to make a big jump, yeah, then you got to call the meeting. You got to make sure that we stop and we say, hey, we we're unsure and this could be a big move. Well, yeah, now you put the accountability in that somebody's got to get the owners at the key account people at the table to say, okay, now we got to make a decision as a team. And then there's accountability and
Okay,
everything that
so
comes with it.
I'm
That's
gonna
just
stop you
structure.
though. I'm gonna stop you though, John. So I get where you're coming from, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate on this one. So
Mm-hmm.
when you've got Seagull leaders who usually do not see themselves as Seagull leaders, first of all, because they
Mm-hmm.
truly believe that what they're doing is the only way they're going to get the results that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
They truly believe that their style is going to get the results, right? Number one. And number two, they're fearful that if they don't do that, they're going to lose. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to convince them easily that they put guardrails in place and that's all it's going to take. So, how do you get them to believe that that's all it's going to take?
Well, part of it is
Ooh.
okay. So yeah, I hear there. What you asked is how you get them to change,
Yeah.
and then I look at the TU in the part of the HR component of a business is you really have to go and do the work and understand how much disruption that they're doing in the backside of the business.
Okay.
Most companies, we hear we want a great place to work. We want people to have engagement. You go and see the aftermath that these people leave. You can see it when in your surveys,
Mm-hmm.
when you do the interviews. That's how you find out the aftermath of the destruction of
Okay.
when you create the true environment and you go ask and I'll say this: your middle management leaders and your high level leaders, go ask that group because that's the group that gets
Okay.
beat up the most. And it's so funny. I feel it's the group we usually jump over. It's the group that we always go to the the shop full floor employees that we want to go say, hey, how are they doing? But that middle management group or that tier right below the C level is the group that we got to start really focusing on
Mm-hmm.
as manufacturing in general, because that's the group that brings that down. That's the group we got to take care of. That's the group we want leaving with a smile on their face,
Mm-hmm.
waking up happy every day. But that's the group we don't take care of. We
But
beat
that's the
that
group
group
that
up so
the
much.
Seagull leaders are beating up on.
Lovely.
They're not beating up on the people on the floor. They're going to that mid level, and
Yeah,
that's the group that they're questioning. That's the
yeah.
group that they're pinging. That's the group. Yeah, that's the group that's getting
Because
hit the hardest with all of it.
that group that's getting beat up, I think in more, not saying that it doesn't happen, trust me, because it's hard to sometimes stop it. But I really do think if we do surveys and we go investigate, it stops a lot more there because they understand how
Mm-hmm.
much it stinks to
And they
being
don't
done from
let
them
it
and they try
down.
to stop it. But if we would change it and we'd really focus on that group, and then we understand how much it holds the business back and how many dollars we actually lose. And
Mm.
then I know you both, if we had another hour in this, you could go into how much it costs the business just
Absolutely.
in turnover and in training
Mm-hmm.
and in everything else. I mean, there's more money costed in that, and we could just go into that on and on and on, right?
Yeah. And with this group, I feel like the audience that we chat with, like if there is a smaller environment, we do have to be cautious of performative HR. Like checking the box. We did our performance review, checking the box. Oh, we did a pulse survey or an engagement survey, or hey, John, I asked you how you're doing today, and you said good, and now I'm just going to move on to what we actually have to accomplish. So I think for those, a practical application is just really being open to listening and be try to setting aside like, okay, what do we have to get done? But how can I connect with this person? And if I say, John, you're my middle manager, and I really want to have a conversation with you about my performance, and I am truly open to your feedback. Does that person feel safe enough to say, I don't really feel like you care about me? Because, and even with surveys, if whether the company is too small to maybe have a sense of security in answering, or whatever it may be, sometimes even surveys can be misleading because folks don't trust that it might be truly anonymous. And so, as a leader, I do think it's so important. I remember there was a survey done, and I wish I could remember the source, but it was self-awareness is one of the key indicators for a successful leader. And so being open to that self-awareness, because to Heather's point, I think I'm just helping and being the success of making my business successful. But how can I approach these folks that might be afraid to talk to me as a leader with true self-awareness and an openness to get their feedback? I don't know the answer there, but
Yeah, I don't either, because honestly, humility is one of the hardest things for leaders. It really is. The humility to listen. And I am just as much at fault. And I'm sure, John, you would say the same thing. I struggle sometimes to have my own team tell me the things that I need to work on, because I'm like, whoa, no, I really don't want to hear it. But we have to. That's the only way we grow.
Mhm.
In in all levels of leadership is hearing, the areas we need to improve. But the higher up the food chain you go, the harder it is to hear that there are key areas that you need to
Yeah.
improve upon. But your company is never going to get any better than it already is if you're not willing to change and grow. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something I think is a key takeaway for any, especially C-level, but owner of an organization, is if you aren't willing to listen to your team, your employees, feedback about where you need to improve, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to get any better. Your company is never going to grow any better than it is right now because you're holding it up.
Yeah.
You're the biggest challenge in that organization because you're not willing to listen to what you might need to do to change so that your people feel like they are being invested in or that they can engage in your company.
I
Yeah, and
love
Heather,
that.
I'll add on this note. I think this is a great way to wrap this up. Now you flip that, and when the CEO or the owner does the reverse and is the leads that way, is willing to listen, is willing to be the one that steps out and vulnerable and does those things, man, does that go across an organization and you see change happen rapidly. And when that person is willing to step out and be the one to tell the story of, hey, you know what, I remember when I had to change and I had to do this and be the first
Mm.
to take that step, that everybody else feels like right then and there is like, oh my goodness, they're not perfect, they've went through it, and right, it just changes. And it that's the part I think we all understand, we have to understand, is when the leader at the top is willing to take the first step to tell the stories about their journey of their
Mm-hmm.
leadership, and then willing to change as well. And then when they're changing, to show their change and to talk about their change and the struggles of their change, and to be open in front of, sometimes we want to, again, I go back to Heather, we started in the beginning, and you talk about the fluff. Sometimes the fluff needs to be the stories of the realness
Yeah.
of,
Mm.
instead of talking about, hey, we're fluffy and this and that, someone sits up there and says, hey, when I was coming up and or when I was building this business, and someone had to sit me down when I was 35 and tell me, if you would just listen more and get out of the
Mm.
way, it would grow a lot quicker instead of
Yep.
you thinking you know everything. And now you got 35 or 450 people in front of you. You want to have impact and people listen to you, tell your story of
Yeah.
how you learned. That's telling a story as a leader.
Stories are more powerful than
Oh,
I
any
love the story.
policy or procedure that
yep,
HR will ever write.
yep.
It's
Absolutely.
so
Telling
true.
your
And I
story
hate to
with
say that because
failure.
that's what we get paid for, right?
Yep,
Is to write our policies and procedures. But any story is way more
yeah,
powerful than anything we write up. It truly is because it connects to people, right? And it makes the vulnerability
yep,
there and the trust gets built on those stories. That's
exactly.
way more important.
Well, I love that. So, okay, I hear Heather saying, listen, to your team, and not just on the big stuff, the little stuff. So not only like, how can I be better with self-awareness, but how is your project going? What have you done on it? What are you really proud of? Or where are you struggling? And then kind of wrapping that up with, okay, we all put our pants on one leg at a time, because it is so true, especially, I mean, I definitely look at leaders who are so successful. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so much smarter. They're so much better. They never struggle with XYZ things. And so that humanization of, they're just another person doing their best, and they also don't know the answers all the time, is really valuable at making them feel more approachable. So I love those kind of two wrapping up of the Seagull approach of what we can do to not necessarily combat it, but maybe turn it into like a sweet, friendly dove that just comes by and you feed it your little kernel. I don't know. Like, we'll just transform the leadership style to a new bird.
Oh, thanks, Cara. That was
Change.
awesome.
That's what we're looking for. It's change.
So
I can already picture it, a seagull turning it. I want the noises now, Cara. Next time
oh gosh,
around, I want that caw,
cuckoo.
caw, caw
Yeah.
to become a whatever, a coo, 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 or whatever it
I
does.
should probably know what a dove noise is, but
I love it. Thanks, John, so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about
thank you,
the
John.
seagull leadership style.
I appreciate it so much.
Have a
Again.
great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.